In dire straits, the Praties Cycling Team is back at square one, appealing to the public for support through crowdfunding to ensure its survival. The Praties Cycling Team holds a prestigious place in Australian cycling history. Founded and led for over 25 years by Andrew Christie Johnston, it has been a powerhouse of Australian road cycling, guiding talented athletes like Richie Porte, Chris Harper, and Ben O'Connor to achieve remarkable heights in the sport. While the men's team concluded at the close of 2024, the women's team, established in 2023, have continued to shine, making significant strides in 2025 by clinching the top spot in local competitions. Dominating in the Pro Velo Super League, Australia's premier domestic road racing series, Praties showcased its prowess, with Sophie Marr leading the charge, complemented by a squad that collectively achieved a successful season. Yet, despite this impressive performance, the future of the Praties women's team is hanging in the balance. After an extensive and exhausting search for a sponsor for the 2026 season yielded no results, the team has once again turned to crowdfunding, an initiative reminiscent of their efforts in late 2022 to gather the necessary funds to continue racing. With a mere 4 weeks left to raise approximately $90,000, the reality is setting in. This could signify the end of a significant chapter in Australian cycling. This isn't the first time the team has sought public support through crowdfunding. Initially, in late 2022, as the team was gearing up for its debut season, it reached out to the cycling community for help, which resulted in positive feedback. A pivotal anonymous donation of $100,000 ultimately secured their future at that time. Now, team managers Christie Johnston and Pat Shaw are pinning their hopes on a similar outcome, recognizing that without additional financing, this crucial pathway for burgeoning road racing talents in Australia could be shut down permanently. Escape Collective interviewed Pat Shaw recently to glean more insights about the crowdfunding endeavor and the path ahead. Matt Denif, what's the current situation for the team? Where do you stand with the crowdfunding campaign? Essentially, we've been engaged in a prolonged battle for the past 3 years. In fact, we found it necessary to dissolve the men's program due to the challenging circumstances. The last few years have been incredibly tough, and I hate to keep reiterating it, but the necessity of travel remains paramount for success in cycling. Sadly, various costs, whether it's vehicles, maintenance, fuel, lodging, flights, or baggage, have skyrocketed. That said, our consistent support from sponsors, especially those supplying our bikes and equipment, has been fantastic. They've played a commendable role in fostering Australian cycling talent. However, the quest for financial backing is undeniably the most challenging aspect we face. Finding it is notoriously difficult for niche sports like ours. In Europe, corporate sponsorship flows in largely due to monumental events like the Tour de France, but we lack those high-profile platforms to attract significant corporate investment. The complexity lies in our need to secure multiple sponsors with varying levels of investment while managing them effectively. As team management operates on a volunteer basis, this becomes an arduous challenge across all fronts. This year, we've explored every possible avenue to secure financing for 2026 and beyond, yet we find ourselves with very little left. We've even tapped into external resources where others have attempted to assist us in seeking sponsorship, but without success. Our last resort has been to launch another crowdfunding campaign. While we were fortunate to have a significant contributor in the past, this approach also raised awareness about our mission and achievements. We can't simply throw in the towel like others have. That's not the spirit of our team. We've always been deeply invested in our cause, and you won't find a more driven group than ours. MDN, what insights have potential sponsors shared with you recently? Is it more challenging to attract sponsors this year compared to previous years? P.S. It's less about what they say and more about the silence that often follows. Despite the struggle, we see large sponsorship deals being secured across various sports, even those on the niche end of the spectrum. For instance, netball has successfully landed a significant funding boost after being in dire straits. What sets us apart is that while there is a national body overseeing our sport, it primarily supports the national team. Most developmental efforts are carried out by domestic teams, and the burden of fostering talent often falls on their shoulders. Through the years, we have excelled in this endeavor as a collective of dedicated volunteers. Yes, some athletes have benefited from institutes, but the bulk of responsibility has shifted to teams and supportive parents. Up to this point, we've effectively filled that gap, but I believe we are now nearing a dire turning point. Talia Appleton has emerged as a beacon of hope, reminding us of our purpose. Her podium finish at the Tour de l'Avenir speaks volumes about our capability and commitment, battling against some of the best competitors out there. However, we must ask ourselves, where will the next champion come from? In the past 3 years, our best results have been finishing in the top 20. Yet, the reality is that we often have found ourselves outmatched, especially during the last 2 years, where we struggled immensely. This year, we saw notable performances from Talia and other riders, but we need to cultivate our next generation of talent from our current domestic system, which is showing signs of challenge. Considering Praties' success this year at the domestic level, what implications does your funding struggle have for the broader context of domestic racing in Australia? P.S. That's a complex question. While our challenges are significant, they do not necessarily reflect the scenario for every team. Different teams have varying connections and influence, which can secure different levels of sponsorship. I believe there are individuals with financial resources out there willing to help. Perhaps they represent a fresh wave of support. We seldom discuss the underlying challenges internally, but our collective journey has been reminiscent of a marathon run, mostly against the wind. The work Andrew Christie Johnston and I have poured into this effort comes from a place of passion. We wouldn't have continued pushing through all the struggles if we weren't deeply invested. Yet it is crucial to acknowledge that our motivation is waning as the fight persists. The behind-the-scenes battle doesn't reflect on our riders, nor should it, as it stands against the ethos that drives our efforts. I emphasize how admirable the efforts of Meridian Blue and ARA have been, particularly in nurturing under-19 programs. While these programs are beneficial, they sadly highlight the dearth of opportunities for senior athletes. Maintaining a positive outlook, it is vital that this foundational support is complemented with arrangements for the next step in the development pipeline. Talia's upward trajectory in the sport is a case in point. Her recent achievements in gravel racing showcase her immense potential, although she missed out on World Championship selection. This emphasizes the necessity for ongoing support at the youth level, while simultaneously addressing the gaps that hinder upward mobility for older athletes. What is the funding goal necessary for the team to operate next season? P.S. We need to raise $100,000. It's also worth noting that our budgeting constraints this year prevented us from supporting athletes at the national titles, which cost roughly $45,000, unaffordable under current conditions. While AU Cycling might celebrate nationals taking place in Perth, the reality is that facilitating team participation from the East Coast has become incredibly challenging, jeopardizing the team's support for its riders. This budgetary target would enable us to mirror our previous endeavors within the Provolo series and broaden support for gravel and mountain biking categories. Without this funding, it would be pointless to participate. Our aim transcends merely racing. We aspire to develop our athletes for future competitions, nurturing talent in a structured way. MDN, you mentioned that the deadline to raise the $100,000 is the end of September. How confident are you about reaching that goal? P.S. Each passing day brings increased pessimism, unfortunately. I'm not an idealist, and reality is sobering. Reflecting on our previous crowdfunding experience, we had to reach out due to another team's abrupt dissolution, which left a void for many hopeful riders. I couldn't bear to see that opportunity vanish, so I put forth an initiative that miraculously gained traction. But we were uncertain until the very moment we received that life-changing $100,000 donation, and it shifted everything. Will there be someone else out there who can make a similar commitment? I genuinely hope so, but we need that exceptional contribution once more. Men's. At the Olympics and World Championships. We've proven our ability to nurture these athletes over the past 3 years, making a compelling case for their support. If you wish to contribute to the Praties Cycling Team's crowdfunding campaign, please visit the team's GoFundMe page, where every little bit helps.